Councillor Young,
Here.
Councillor Belcott,
Present.
Councillor Bowerman,
Present.
Councillor Marshall. Here. And Chair Messagey.
Present. Any amendments? No negative comment? Okay. Public comment on agenda items only. Are there any in the room?
We do. We have Carmen De Leon.
Oh, right now?
Yep.
Do I stand here? Yeah. So my name is Carmen De Leon, and I took a picture of the agenda, and they said there were the minutes from, I forgot which day last week, but the minutes were, there was proclamations on the disabilities, which I'm disabled. Oh, did I mention my name, Carmen De Leon, I go by Mel. And they have the Hispanic, proclamation up too. So I'm just saying, when you see somebody who's blind coming down the street, you don't put your foot out there to make them stumble and drop them. When you see a deaf person, you look them in the face so they can read your lips, hopefully. You don't turn your back and talk to them so they can't hear you. You don't put obstacles in their face. So when you see somebody with PTSD, you try not to trigger them. You try to be nice to them. So I'm just saying, so you can grow up a little bit. On the other hand, the people with disabilities also said employment, which we get punished for employment. I'm on SSI for disabilities. That's why I've asked for accommodations. And I have to advocate for myself despite being made fun of, you know? I'm just saying, if people didn't have the threat of losing their disability, which of course we need our medical, of course we need all this crap that keeps everybody else employed, because without the sick people, the doctors are unemployed. So they need the patients. So I'm just saying, to make it, yeah, easier for people with disabilities to work. Because, you know, it's like I've said plenty of times, you know, you don't come to this earth because you're entitled to everything. You're born owing society. Just because you bought that chair and paid $100, that doesn't put into account the engineer who put it all together. The blood, sweat, and tears, the guy screwing the screws, and the person who didn't go home because he stayed up late, making sure that it was appropriate. You know, you're born owing to society, so we have to give back. And like myself as an example, despite my disabilities, despite that, I try my best to give back to society. And how much do I have time? Oh, I still have a whole minute? Okay, I'm always trying to talk over myself because I got to be real fast up. And in regards to the Hispanic month is great because my ancestors are all Hispanic and the other half is Mayan. So I've got both sides. I've got the conquistador side and the conquested side. So it's pretty much irony that I'm both of Indian and Spanish. But I'm just saying, my father came here in 1967, and he didn't speak a word of English. And he said the first thing I did was buy a TV, because they didn't ask me to come here. I came here, I need to speak the language. So when people come here, part of becoming a U.S. citizen should be fluently speaking the language. When I went across overseas to Romania, to Mexico, wherever I went, they didn't come with everything translated into English. You came here, you learned the language.
Okay, thank you. Your time has elapsed. I don't see anyone else in the room. How about online?
We have somebody online.
Please.
Mute them. Caller, please state your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Good afternoon. This is Kimberly Goheen Elbin, Patriot Life Citizen of Clark County, Washington, USA. Pertaining to the very agenda, again, I would like to reiterate my request to allow the work session to be in the full day's council, which includes the 1 p.m. meeting. Vancouver City Council allows work session as an agenda item. So that's my request again. I'm standing for my First Amendment rights, actually, and the way a government should serve the people, or you might call us constituents. So you need to serve the constituents, right? So getting to the minutes of September 11th that you have here, I've stated on record, I will mention the July proclamation for Independence Month that this council took from me. I'll mention it and put it on record again for that. And I also want to mention that on there, you have under report on policy issues, Governor Inslee will be here tomorrow to present the Smart Community Awards event. Well, I was there. Also on those minutes, I want to make note, and this is never anything personal because I do care, that there was some absentees there again, and I have neglected to put how many for the full year, but I will try to get that on record. I'm kind of a busy little farmer here making my relish today. I love it. So I'm home and safe. Thank you. But anyway, so with Governor Inslee, I have a personal issue with him because, and I was there, so was Mello actually, as citizens, we believe that we were probably the only two there.
So is there a correction to the minutes? Did you want your name mentioned that you participated in the public ceremony?
No, I get
You're
a
off
comment on the
agenda.
minutes.
This is not
get
a
a comment
public
on the
time to
minutes.
just say whatever you want about
No, I get a comment
business
on
in
the
the
minutes, so
past.
I'm going to talk about
Is
the
there
pending
something
litigation,
about the
sir.
minutes you
Stop.
need to correct?
Stop talking over me. I'm going to
Okay,
talk about your
delete the
pending
caller.
litigation. I'm going to
Please
talk
delete
about
the
your.
caller. Thank you. Are there any other callers online?
No.
Okay. So that concludes public comment. And we'll go to those minutes, old business.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries. And that is it under old business. Going to, you know what, I'm looking at those minutes. Looking at new business, nothing listed. Counselor reports,
I have a couple of things.
please.
Okay, we had a meeting of the Opioid Abatement Council, and I just wanted to give an update. I know, Chair, you were interested in collaboration with Vancouver's Opioid Abatement Council, and we had tasked Jim Jensen with reaching out to them to see what they were doing. And one thing we learned at our meeting is that Vancouver will receive about $400,000 a year, and they're not going to be putting out an RFP or issuing grants. They're going to dedicate the entire amount to services for the bridge project when it gets going, the bridge shelter, and they'll be contracting with Columbia River Mental Health. And then Jim also shared what we were up to, so, and the awards that have been given out, and they, I guess the feedback was that they're meshing well together, and I just thought you'd be interested in hearing about that. It seems like we're off to a good start.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Oh, please.
Okay, the other thing, I wanted to follow up on the Dabbler Forest, because I think the last we talked about it, there was agreement to find out more information. So the chair and I met with a couple of people from the Legacy Forest of Western Washington who have organized some tours up in the area, and there's an open invitation, I think, if anyone would like to go up there and take a look at it. But, and then the other update that we had received was that the timber sale has been postponed because they need to reissue the SEPA because there was an error in the map. So it's naturally delayed. But one of the suggestions that came out of that meeting would be for the council, if we choose, to write a letter to DNR and just ask them to postpone the decision in order to give us more time to really explore what our options might be. I know we've done a reconveyance previously, so that could be an option, but there's a lot more for the council to learn about in order to make any kind of a decision. And then the other issue that was discussed is related to the comp plan update and our response and our plan for climate change, and whether or not old growth or late succession growth could be a part of our strategy to manage, protect, or mitigate for some of our climate impacts, because there's significant carbon sequestration that is occurring up there. So the idea with writing a letter to DNR to postpone, I think it's, you know, that even though it's postponed right now, it could come back pretty quickly, I think, because there's only a 2-week comment period once you issue the SEPA. So I just think in order to kind of preserve our options, we might want to send a letter to DNR and make that request. The chair and I will be meeting with DNR next week, so we'll be able to explore some of these things and really find out more about the site itself. So that's my request.
So I would just add this. You know, I don't know what the options are. I don't know what DNR's position is or what they may offer as options. I support a letter to further express an interest in learning about the Dabbler auction and what there may be in the way of options for the county to do an exchange or somehow preserve this particular acreage. I'm not asking for a letter that says do something different. I'm not asking for a letter suggesting that what they're doing is wrong or questioning them in any way. I see DNR on this as a valued partner. And we wouldn't be delaying their SEPA rebuild. I think it was just a mapping error that they could probably easily fix. So I don't want to get into their business, but I do want to express an interest in what is happening there, what could happen there, and what our options are to do something different. So that's one issue. And before I move on to this, because you really brought up two, before we go on to the second one, is any other counselor interested in sending a letter of interest to DNR on the Dabbler auction? Yeah. Okay, Glenn is indicating yes. How about online? Michelle, Karen, any interest at all?
No.
Not to me, because it seems like it's DNR's jurisdiction, not really ours. It seems like it's their decision-making. So that's my only comment.
Okay, so we do have three to move forward, and they did offer, they had several samples of letters that other counties have said expressing an interest. So if we could just connect them up with Jordan, perhaps we could get a letter together.
And do you want the letter to have 3 counselor names or just?
For the other counselors that aren't interested yet, do you want to see the letter before you decide to put your name on it or not?
Yes. Please. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, thank you. So we'll hold off on that decision until he's got the letter drafted up. So the second issue is, and I sent, as we were getting hundreds, if not thousands of emails from those constituents about the Dabbler, one of the thoughts that came across my mind was, okay, we've got other entities, we've got other government forests within Clark County, DNR, Ecology, U.S. Forest Service, just to name some. And the thought came across, and it was probably prompted by some of those constituent emails. As far as our climate element, we have no control over what other entities are doing with the forests, whether old growth or not, within our county. And so I sent that question to Oliver, and I think he really misunderstood what I was asking, because what I was asking was what Sue Marshall just expressed. What impact on our planning results from all this other forest land within Clark County jurisdiction? Oliver's response was basically, well, we've got a plan in place to receive open public comment. But that was really a totally separate issue. So I would be interested in learning a little bit more. I know it's kind of pushing the envelope. We're the first county to deal with this law, with this element in the comprehensive plan update. But I think the question is a really relevant and valid one raised by Dabler. What impacts, what controls? I mean, this may result in some legislative lobbying to say, hey, especially with state agencies, perhaps there is a requirement for them to notify county government when they're planning a cut, because it does impact carbon. It does impact our planning. So in any case, I'm not sure how we pose that question to Oliver, but I would like them, with the consultant, to do some thinking about these issues and then come back to us, probably come back to you all, because I'll no doubt be gone when some information comes back to you. But are there three counselors interested in what Councilor Marshall just raised?
Yeah.
Was that a yes from Glenn? Okay.
Would you restate it, please?
I'll let Sue Marshall restate it, because she said it more articulately.
Well, I think there's a couple of issues actually that you brought up. I think one is just better understanding our forest resources and what role they could play in our planning to address climate change, either proactively or for mitigation for some of the impacts we're having. And then additionally, I think the notification for the county to be able to understand who are the entities that are managing forests in Clark County, and having some notice when there's going to be harvest or other impacts to the forest.
Well, the only addition to that is I want to know how Oliver's team is taking this into consideration.
Right.
You know, are they clear cutting hundreds of acres or thousands of acres, or are they not? And how that would impact our own internal county planning. I mean, he may have already thought about it, and I just didn't express the question clearly enough to him.
I can put on next week's agenda if you'd like, and he can provide an update.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other council reports?
Nope, that's it
Yep.
for me.
Got a couple. We had a jail tour this past week. I think it was Jordan that arranged that. It was very, very good, very successful. We had Representative Waters, Stonier, Wiley, Harris, and Senator Cleveland all come. And I think the majority, if not all of them, this is the first time that they've viewed the jail. And so there was kind of a shock. You know, they've all heard the jail is not a good, you know, the building itself, not how things are being run at the jail, but the building itself is not a good environment, not a good building, not a good fit for the vision that we have for how the jail should function. But they were all surprised in the sense that it was worse than they had imagined. So I think it lit a fire, and it stoked some really good conversations. So look forward to those conversations coming up in the future. And I think we do have support for trying to figure out what we can do with the jail. And then just a brief update, the Mental Health Sales Tax Advisory Board, we met this week, and we went through internal requests, which I think there were 8. And so the results will be coming out at some point. I'm not sure what the timeline is of that, but then we also have 25 external applications that we're going to be going through here pretty soon. So that would be it for today.
Super. So 2 points. One, I mean, the legislature has dealt with the issue of state more robust funding of regional and local jails, and they begged off it last session. So I'm hoping you will pursue this with this next session, because it really is their job to help the local county jails and some of the counties that share regional jails I am sure, I haven't taken a tour of other jails in Clark County. I've been in prisons and jails in other countries and in this country as well. There are some that are far worse than ours, and I suspect that there are some in Washington State that need state support. So, good work. I'm glad whoever organized it, if Jordan did it, that really kudos for him for getting some eyes on it, because they need to push this during the next legislative session. I'm sorry, it's an item of legislative priority for us, I think, to push it in the next legislative session. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be pushing on whatever the Supreme Court comes up with public defense case limits. That we'll see what happens with that. But two big law and order, law and justice issues. On the mental health sales tax, my timing couldn't have been worse for my own vacation. I had rated all of those 8 packets, but because I didn't get it into the system, I hand rated it. I had staff print them out, and my ratings were pretty different from how it all turned out. I also was away on vacation during the time when you had presentations on the internal. So I didn't get to weigh in at all, and I'm playing catch up, and I've asked Jordan and others to kind of give me an overview, because quite frankly, I disagree with the outcome, and I'd like to revisit it, but that's all I want to say on that right now. I had a meeting with a local constituent who's an expert on autism and studied under one of the most respected international experts in childhood autism and treatments. And she has made a proposal through me, and I'm hoping to meet with staff. That was the Camp Curry issue. Camp Curry is pretty well, I would just say, neglected at this point and very much underused. But they're proposing to basically have a camp with best practices for our youth that are suffering from autism. So I'm hoping to pursue that with staff to see what's feasible, what's not. Some of the buildings, I think, need to be torn down as they are. I don't think they're restorable. But in any case, I had that meeting a couple weeks ago, and I have their presentation. But I need to hear from Parks and Recs, and I don't think I've ever seen a briefing on what the plans were for Camp Curry. And I think RCO had donated a lot of the money that supported it, so there may be additional restrictions on how we use that park. But anyway, I hope to learn more. Other council reports? Karen?
No, thank you.
Michelle? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to work session request 7.1.
Okay, the first one is to talk about the initial overview of a potential ILA between the county and the Greater Clark Parks District. This will just clarify roles and responsibilities and make adjustments to operations and maintenance funding at the 5 properties.
I'm interested. Others?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Looks like positive all the way around. 7.2.
Yes, so the next one is on the 2025 annual construction program and the transportation improvement program. This is an annual work session we do before the budget to receive feedback, as we have to adopt these every year.
Sounds good.
Universal support? Yes. Okay.
Okay, and then the final one is the draft capital plan for Parks and Land. The capital improvement program requires adoption again prior to the budget approval. And so this is just getting in preparation for that hearing and to consider a resolution to adopt that, to amend the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan and Natural Areas Acquisition Plan.
I'm supportive. I'm curious when you think the hearing might be.
The work session is, they're hoping the end of October, but the hearing, I think it has to be before the budget hearing.
Okay, so
But there's one that we do the same day as the budget hearing. You may not know. Is it this one? Because we do a parks, public hearing first, and then we do the annual budget hearing, but they're in the same meeting. And that's the first week of December.
okay.
That, I can get the
Support?
big date on that.
And yes, thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to Jordan, policy updates.
Good afternoon, Council. For the record, Jordan Wilkie, Policy Analyst. I do have a few updates for you today. So the first thing I just wanted to mention is following up on Councilor Young's report on the jail tour. Yes, myself and Josh Weiss, our lobbyist, helped organize that with the delegation. A lot of appreciation to him for setting that up, and also thank you to Michelle Rudy from the Clark County Public Safety Alliance for joining us, as well as our new Director of Indigent Defense, Christopher Swaby. Really appreciated their perspectives on the jail tour, and staff was just really fantastic in framing up the issues. We had a few preliminary discussions about the kinds of topics we wanted to make sure we hit on, and they really knocked it out of the park. So kudos to them. We also, Representative McClintock also has an individual tour scheduled later. She wasn't able to make it to this one. And I'm also working with the folks at the jail to try to set up another tour for representatives from our federal delegation. So we are really trying to get as many folks as possible in the jail, understanding the issues, trying to leverage as much support as possible as we move forward. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up today is that I'd like to talk a little bit more about legislative priorities next week at council time. So I know we've had some conversations in one-on-ones with councilors and a few preliminary discussions. There's also a WASAC Legislative Steering Committee meeting tomorrow that should provide a little more information on what the association, how they're framing up their legislative agenda. And so hopefully we can kind of use that to talk about the two items in tandem, both what the association is planning and then our own legislative priority list for this upcoming session. And then the final thing I wanted to bring up this afternoon is just to give you an update that the IBR, the draft SIS, is coming out on Friday. We have heard that it is potentially as much as 5,000 pages with all the amendments or appendices rather, and so that'll be a fun read. And we do have the session with the IBR administrator scheduled for October 30th, which will be about halfway through the public comment period for that document. So that timing should work out well. And I think those are all the updates I had for you. I will get that Dabbler letter drafted by the end of the week and sent out to council for review so that we can talk about it next week at council time.
Yeah.
Chair, can I make one comment?
Yes, please, Amber.
Jordan, I just want to add a comment too about the jail. We also toured last week. We're doing about 2 or 3 tours a week right now. Director Shook and his team are doing amazing work trying to get as many tours. We toured the newly appointed criminal court judge, Judge Christine Hayes, who will be sworn in on Friday. She's in the criminal rotation. I think it's one of our very first Superior Court judges that have went through the jail in its entirety. So we're hoping to get all the judges through the jail, because it was eye-opening for her to see the bar space, the arraignment space, and just what the jail is dealing with when we go into a lockdown and how that impacts their court hearings. So, and I would like to give a shout out to the new Superior Court Administrator, Pam. She's also already been through the jail. She's only been here a month, and she hit the ground running and did a tour. So we've got really great support, not only from our legislative partners, but also the local folks as well. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
Super. And thanks to you personally, Jordan, and to Josh for making it happen. Just got to keep that momentum up. I think we're doing all the right things to highlight. I mean, jails are not popular. They're not popular with the public. And it's hard to reform them. It's hard to build new ones because the public just doesn't want to hear about them. So I think we've got a motive force behind this effort.
Chair, just real quick.
Yes, please.
I neglected to recognize Anna and Director Shook. They did a wonderful job. I mean, they are on top of it. Anna is like a walking dictionary. She knows every little detail. It was a very good presentation, so I just wanted to make sure that they are aware of that.
Okay, anything else on those policy updates? Okay, super. So, Leslie, we have 2 executive sessions totaling 30 minutes on the same RCW. Do we expect any action at all?
Thank you, Chair Medvedi. We do not expect any afterwards.
Okay, all right. So I've got roughly 13:30, so we can come back at 2 p.m. or 1400. We'll go into executive session.
And you'll need to go into your.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, the chair has asked us to announce that the executive session is going to be extended for an additional 10 minutes, and they plan to reconvene in open session at about 2:15. Thank you. Hello, this is just another announcement from the chair that this executive session has been extended for an additional 10 minutes, and open session will reconvene at 2:25. Thank you.
We're live? All right, I think we are live. And we have concluded our executive sessions with our lawyers. There's no action to take at this time. We stand adjourned.